What you just heard was the voice of a man who needed help. In the afternoon of July 24th, 1989, two Tokyo men were out hiking when they got lost on a path going from Mount Kurodake to Mount Asaidake in Daisetsuzan National Park. A rescue team was sent out with a helicopter to look for the two men, but while doing so, the helicopter spotted something strange. A giant SOS sign made of birch logs, 19 of them, each being around 5 meters long to be exact. The men were found 2 to 3 kilometers north of the SOS, and when the rescuers picked them up, they were praised for creating such an impressive SOS sign. But there was one problem. They didn't create it. Well, if they didn't create it, then who did? Who could have made such an impressive SOS sign, and that with birch tree logs? On the 25th of July, 1989, the very next day after the rescue mission of the two Tokyo men were conducted, rescuers were set out once again to the area of the SOS sign, thinking there might be more people in need of help. Seeing how the Tokyo men didn't create the sign, this means there must have been others who did. They searched all around the SOS, and they ended up finding something. Or should I say, someone. They found the skeletal remains of someone not too far from the sign. That wasn't all that was found, however. They also found a human-sized hole in a tree, and inside was a backpack and the belongings of someone. Kenji Iwamura. The items that were found in the hole were as follows: 4 cassette tapes, a tape recorder, 2 cameras, a notebook, jewelry, a tripod, a pair of men's basketball shoes, a human skull, and a driver's license. The driver's license belonged to a man named Kenji Iwamura, a 25-year-old man from Kunang, Aichi Prefecture. For those who don't know what a prefecture is or what it means, it's basically another word for province or region. Japan is divided into a total of 47 prefectures, with Aichi being one of them. This is where Kenji lived and worked as an office worker. He went missing on the 10th of July, 1984, after he went for a hike to Asaidake. He was missing for a whole week, not showing up for work, and this made his parents worry, leading them to call the police to look for him. Going back to the 1989 search, the belongings that were found inside of the man-sized hole was identified by his parents as belonging to Kenji. But where is he? Why did he leave his stuff behind? The skeletal remains that were found were clearly chewed on by scavenger animals, and the bones were indicating that whoever these bones belonged to suffered fractures before death. In a search for answers, the bones and skull were sent to the Asahikawa Medical University in Japan for testing. The results came back stating that the bones belonged to a 20 to 40-year-old female with a blood type O. This caused confusion among the people involved in the case as well as outsiders, as it was said that Kenji was hiking on his own, yet remains of a female was found in the area, with Kenji seemingly missing in action. Kenji wasn't found, and with no other leads, the police decided they would inspect the cassettes they found with Kenji's other belongings. And this is where things start to get weird. The recordings were that of music from anime TV shows, macros, and one that was very controversial, an anime series by ESN Productions named Magical Princess Minky Momo from the 80s. The anime series was said to be cursed due to natural disasters like earthquakes hitting Japan at the same time certain episodes were broadcasted on TV. Now, this can simply be chalked up to bad timing or people just trying to look for patterns where there are none. The cassettes were covered in anime stickers, clearly insinuating that Kenji was a big anime fan. One of the recordings, however, stood out from the rest. What you are about to hear is real and unfiltered horror. SOS, help me, I can't move on the cliff. SOS, help me. The place is where I first met the helicopter. The Sasa is deep and you can't go up. Lift me up from here. The person screaming in the recording is said to be Kenji, trying to catch the attention of rescuers in a helicopter that was potentially looking for him at that time. With the police uncovering all of this new information, we are still left with the question, where is Kenji? The bones of a female was found, but not that of Kenji. Anyway, while due to all the confusion and lack of remains from Kenji's side, the bones were re-examined, and this time, the case took a whole different turn. The bones were identified as belonging to a 25-year-old man with blood type A, Kenji Iwamura. Now everything starts to make a bit more sense. The bones and belongings were that of Kenji, and the case is closed now, right? Well, no, it's only getting started from here. Right out the gate, we have another big question looming. Why was Kenji found near the SOS sign and not the cliff where he made his recordings? How is that possible? Another question arises. How on earth did Kenji create this massive SOS sign to begin with? The reason why this question is asked, and why it might possibly be the biggest mystery of this case, is for one simple reason. The birch logs used to craft the SOS sign were cut with an axe. Investigations around the area found no such tools. I mean, let's think for a second. This was out in the middle of nowhere, meaning there would be no farms or houses nearby for Kenji to have gotten a tool like an axe to chop the trees. Well, what if he carried one with him on the hike? That could explain how he was able to chop the trees, but why on earth would he carry an axe with him on a hike? That would be a bit weird, don't you think? The issue with this is that no axe was ever found, even after the area was combed. So how was he able to chop down the trees? Even if he was able to chop them down with an axe, how was he able to carry these trees to the site to create the sign? It was 19 trees that he used. There's also the fact that he had clearly sustained injuries from somewhere. So how was he able to chop the trees and carry the logs to the site where he would eventually craft the sign? Birch is a hard, strong, heavy, durable wood, making it a popular choice to build homes out of. So you can't just go and chop it down and carry it where you want. It takes strength to do that. Something Kenji didn't have, according to his bones. With some further investigation, it was determined that the SOS sign has been up since 1987. Which makes sense that it would be there 3 years later after Kenji passed back in 1984. As we know now, birch is pretty strong and durable, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that it could withstand any bad weather conditions thrown at it. Another important thing to take note of is that this area contains 2 rock formation landmarks. One is called the Safe Rock, and the other is called the fake safe rock. On the ridge of Mount Asaidake, there's a rock nicknamed Safe Rock, and it acts as a guidepost, a landmark of sorts, to help people not get lost. Nearby this rock, however, is the flip side of the coin, so to speak, the fake safe rock. Now the thing is, this rock is also on the edge of the mountain, and if you fall off here, guess where you end up at? The area where Kenji made the SOS sign in, and where this whole incident started. This is where the Sasa Grove is, aka a bamboo grove, where Kenji possibly got injured and stuck. Before we move on from the recordings of him, when they were played back to his parents, they didn't recognize him. They said it didn't sound like their son. What on earth? How is that possible? There's no way that could have been anyone other than Kenji. The only explanation put forward to try and explain why they might not recognize him is that it doesn't sound like him due to the recording quality that cassette tapes and recorders offer. We also have to take into account the fact that Kenji was in a rough situation at that point while making the recording. He might have been severely injured, hungry and thirsty, and who knows, he probably could have been shouting for help even before he started recording, possibly damaging his voice and throat. This area is very hard to escape from, and it's easier to get in from the top than it is to get out from the bottom up. A news media interview team learned this fact the hard way a few days after the incident was discovered, when they got stuck in there and had to be rescued. Wait, I just had a thought. Could it be possible that Kenji was not injured while he was in the grove, but when he got out of it? The fact that a news team, meaning more than one person, got stuck in the grove, was uninjured, yet they didn't manage to get out, but Kenji did, and he was injured, makes me wonder. Perhaps he got into the grove, got stuck by not knowing where or how to get out, and eventually figuring it out by himself that you can get out by going up. That would make a lot of sense, since he did make the recording saying he needed to be lifted out of here by rescuers if they found him. But how could he have gotten injured outside the grove? Maybe when he got out, it was nighttime and animals came to attack him, giving him the injuries and inevitably ending him. That would make a lot of sense as well. About the birch logs being used to craft the SOS sign. Could it be possible that a stack of cut down trees were just laying there in the area, chopped down by others, before Kenji got there? And when he thought of making an SOS sign, he found the logs conveniently laying there, ripe for the taking. All he had to do was just pick them up and carry them. This would make a ton of sense to me, seeing how no tools was found at the scene, yet the trees were clearly chopped down with an axe. Right now, all the evidence leads to Kenji being the one who made the SOS sign, even though there were no tools found to have assisted him. What likely happened was that Kenji was hiking when he got lost. He tried looking for the safe rock, but ended up mistaking the fake safe rock for it. He slipped and fell and ended up in the spot where he made his first recording, and this is where rescuers were flying over trying to look for him, but failed due to not being able to see him in the grove. He would be here at the cliff until he decided to try and leave the spot for a better chance at being spotted by helicopters, and he managed to get out of the spot in his injured state. He built the SOS sign and waited for rescuers. Nobody came for him, so he decided to walk and find his way out of the situation. It's unclear what could have happened next, but he either got attacked by scavenger animals due to him being injured and unable to defend himself, or he tried to leave the area but he passed due to his injuries. Now the thing is, the bag and the tapes were found in a hole, not near him or at the cliff. So how did this end up by the tree and not by him? Perhaps after he got out of the grove where he was stuck in, he stashed the items of his in the hole so he wouldn't have to carry it with him everywhere he went in his injured state. This would make a lot of sense, as he would have most likely tried to memorize the area so he could eventually return to get his stuff back once he was safe and rescued. I gotta say, it's incredibly impressive that he was able to get out of that bamboo grove in the first place, with the possible injuries he had and him carrying his backpack with all the items. The fact that a news crew couldn't get out and they weren't injured, yet Kenji was and he managed to get out, is remarkable. When your life is in danger, you will try everything in your power to survive. What if Kenji had someone assisting him in crafting the sign? Someone who had a tool with them. I mean, those were a lot of logs and they were very heavy, and it's said to have taken days to build. I mean, it would make sense. It's very possible. What if he wasn't alone? If we entertain this idea, there's only two options with this. If there was someone with him, they left him behind to go look for help, or this person passed away along the way. If they did find help, Kenji would have been found when he should have been. Yet, no rescue teams ever found him, and nobody ever came forward when they saw it on the news that they helped him build the sign or that they were with him. Then there is the other option. The person didn't succeed in finding help and they passed along the way. While no other body was found in the area and nobody ever came forward with a missing persons case for someone who went missing on the same day as Kenji. Okay, but what if someone stumbled upon him and they happened to have a tool on hand and they helped him build a sign for hours or even days? Why would they go through all that effort if they could just simply stay with him and call for help, or try and piggyback him, or be a crutch for him? Basically, nobody ever came back with help, or nobody were ever reported missing in that time period if the person passed. Due to these points, I think it's safe to assume Kenji was alone that day and days after, until his passing. What if someone else built the sign before Kenji went missing, and when he did, he stumbled upon it and tried to use it as a beacon? Well, I don't think this theory holds water due to the fact that nobody ever knew of the sign until this incident took place. You're trying to tell me that planes and helicopters were flying over, people were hiking there, and nobody managed to see a giant SOS sign and report that or post about it on social media? Then there's also the fact that when investigators looked for prior existence of the sign before Kenji's case, they couldn't find any. It's been up since he went and was missing. So this rules out the theory that maybe it was built before this incident by someone else. We can also safely rule out the theory that Kenji was robbed and murdered on the hike because, firstly, none of his personal belongings were missing. There was literally a whole backpack full of valuable items like cameras and sneakers that could have been sold for quite the penny. So nothing was missing, and there were no stab wounds or stab marks on the bones that were found, so we can rule out this theory immediately. Also, I just want to mention as well how weird it is to me that from all the sources I looked at for this story, nowhere was the names mentioned for these two hikers that were found. Their names were never given, and I find that very strange. The only explanation I can think of for this is for privacy reasons. They probably didn't want to have their names plastered all over the news and articles so that people won't harass them and cause more drama than there already was. At the moment, it seems the case has been solved and most of the questions have been answered, but we still have a few that don't have a conclusive answer. How he was able to carry those logs and how he was able to obtain them in the first place without any tools being found. I guess some things we will never truly know. Nonetheless, this was an interesting case. Whether Kenji got injured falling into the grove and got out eventually, or he got injured outside of it when he escaped it, doesn't take away from the fact that he still managed to build an impressive SOS sign, which ended up saving 2 lives years later down the line. For that, Kenji is a hero, and although we wish he could have been found before he passed, at least his belongings were found along with his remains, netting his family and friends closure. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, tap the like button, share with family and friends who might be interested too, and subscribe to soothe that fascination.